What's going on, Z Warriors? MrWaffles here, and as you can tell by my surroundings, this isn't my normal room. This is actually my fiance and her sister's room, whatever. So I was want to get this deck out there just because I've seen a lot of cool decks and stuff like that for Gen Con, and congrats for everyone who top seeded and did really well at the event. And I really wanted to go because I was going to stay with Eric Benson and stuff like that, and because we're also working on an app, as you guys probably know. And I just wanted to go and hang out with him as well as obviously playing Gen Con. And the deck that I was going to play was Blue Protective Cooler, and I felt I was gonna play Blue Cooler right after the New York regional, like right after I played Tag Gohan, and I was like, um, I'm done with this deck. I want to try something new, and I really want to experiment with Cooler because I just like saw Supernova, and just like this card is just like really good. I just think Cooler is very underrated right now, especially with like Broly and 13 everywhere. So I wanted to use an MP that kind of was very flexible in certain situations, whereas I felt Broly was always like attack, attack, attack. Cooler wasn't always about that. It was like attack when necessary, or strike at key moments. So I'm just gonna give you guys my deck profile for my blue cooler that I would have ran at Gen Con uh, if I went to the event, and I felt like I would have done pretty well, mainly because a lot of the blue we had three blue coolers I think top, and a couple of them probably going like X2 and stuff like that. So even if I wouldn't have topped, I think I would have had a pretty solid record. And another reason for me playing Blue Cooler was because since Black 13 was big, or like Black in general, they have very limited ways to get rid of allies successfully or efficiently. And I felt with Salza, Blue has a lot of ways to protect allies. So Salza was just a +1 because if they use a mastery, you gain 2 stages, and then you just use Salza's effect to draw a card. So they actually lose a card while you still net even. So you go -1 and you stay even. So it's a loss for them and a gain for you. And not to mention, 13's everywhere. So I felt like Blue Protective ability to reach 6 anger was going to be very helpful in those matchups. And not to mention that Cooler's like level 2 and 3 is pretty good just for lasting inside the game. So against like Roshi or things of that nature, you can outlast your opponent even if you maybe can't like win. You can at least outlast them in that sense. So I'll just get on with the deck profile. So I'll just turn it around for you guys. So obviously we have Cooler 1 through 4, and then in the mastery, obviously need these to play Blue Protective Cooler. And for physical attacks, again, I'm running allies in my build. 3 Sobering Hammer. So this card, because again, I think all my allies, they have the ability. They have constant abilities, so this is really good targets. And if I'm ever like stage locked or something like that, I can always still get an ally. A lot of times, depending on what my hand is, uh, I also play like Blue Clash and Neck Beam, so certain cards that have hit effects, or if I want to see like a Supernova to see if it will go through, I would usually just get Ginyu out just to scout out the hand and see what my plays are. I don't really care if he goes away, it's just usually for that turn I just kind of need him just to see like what's going on, what to block, what to take, and things of that nature. So 3 Sobering Hammer, uh, 2 Blue Decapitation. So Decap I felt was a really strong card. Um, I always was kind of iffy on it because with this card you want to maximize your targets for it first. What I mean by that is um, if you kind of have like 3 Headknocks and you play like 3 Decap, a lot of times your Decaps would be dead. So you need to have like, a lot more targets to make this card viable. So I felt like I think 2 is a good number because you want to see like the cards first, basically your targets first before you see the decap. So you want to make sure you like maximize on like the Headknocks, betrayals, and things of that nature before you see it. So 2 blue decap. And we also have 3 blue betrayal. So betrayal again is always a good spot removal. Um, Even in certain matchups, if it's not great, again, it's still good for the mastery, so you can always just pitch it if need. But with 13 being around, to be able to banish 14, because the longer 14 stays on the field, it can be annoying. Same thing with 15. If you let it linger, you can just keep dumping Androidian cards to the discard pile. So think just being able to have the access to get rid of allies or any threat pretty much is always helpful, especially certain decks where, you know, it's just like more answers to board because now you have Betrayal, you have decaps for the Betrayal, and then you also have Nova. So it's just good all around utility. We also have 3 Blue Slash. So I took this card out and I like immediately kind of regret it. I didn't really miss it, but I'm just glad that I actually have it in. So Blue Slash is just really disgusting. You all know what it does, but what's really amazing is like, you know, decap it into Slash, and you know, it's just like more ways to like lower anger, and the endurance is always good for Blue Cooler because the deck kind of almost like never dies. It's pretty insane. So 3 Blue Slash for sure, and again, a lot of decks like Broly running high endurance cards with just like Face Crusher and stuff, so this card like bypasses all that, which is really good. So it's just another way to basically like a 7 life card swing for the most part if they have 0 anger. So it's pretty disgusting. And the fact that you can copy it again is always good. And then we have 3 Blue Headknock. So Blue Headknock, as you know, it's just always good anger control, and the endurance is good, and it's life. So, you know, no real explanation needed, but it's just a really good card. And then now for physical blocks, I was trying this out. 1 Blue Leverage. So this card I really like in Cooler because even though your opponent can pick a card and usually would give you a bad card, since you can stack the other 2, what you can do is you can then use Cooler's power to discard an energy combat card and draw the good card anyway. So I feel like this card is always a win-win, and it replaces itself. So it was really good against like certain like physical beats decks and stuff like that, where maybe the top 3 cards are just like maybe blocks, but you know it secures like another block. So 1 is really good right now. I might play more. This all depends, but again, I really like Blue Leverage in this, just for the ability of like the constant stack. And that's one thing you really see about Blue Cooler, at least my build particularly, which is probably going to be overshadowed by, you know, like Filmographs or Ryan's build or whoever like top with Blue Cooler. But I just really like it because it's like consistent stacking, and the fact that you can draw into those cards. So you'll see like blue, like Blanketing Blast to stack a card, and then you can use Coolest Power to draw that card, or Narrow Escape, stack 2 energy combat cards using Coolest Power to use Blue Guard to draw the 2 cards that you stack. So it's consistent like stacking, which is always good because half the time with certain cards you can stack them, but you know you just hope to draw them because you know your opponent might like land a next attack or something like that. But at least with Cooler, you know you have to Master Protector, so that way you could almost kind of guarantee to draw. It doesn't always happen, but the fact that you can at least stack your deck is really cool consistently. And then last but not least, for physical blocks, we have 3 Blue Crouch. So I built this deck again mainly to be geared towards the Broly meta. So a lot of times I usually like take his physical, drop me down to 1 above, they go first, and then you know you can crouch, stack it on top, and then use Coolest Power to draw the card, and then draw the crouch again, and then you throw another physical, you just stack it on top, and then if they get a physical to go through you, you know, you at least have 3 endurance sitting on top of your deck. So I felt like 3 crouch was necessary. The endurance is always helpful, and again, just being able to, again, certain decks, because we're in a really heavy physical meta, very aggressive, so being able to just stack consistently on top, I always thought was really good, and again, all for the endurance as well. It's just an added bonus. For energy combats, I'm trying out 2 Villainous Powerball. Again, prevention of 4 was really good, so everything, you know, with the Broly modifiers and stuff like that can soften up the damage. I originally had 2 blindings in here, and I'm toying around between like Powerball and blinding, and you know, blinding is not bad at all too, I felt, because the cards that you banish you can pretty much get back with the level 3, so it doesn't matter. But this card's good as well because it's more lowering anger, and to prevent 4 from all attacks is pretty good as well. So you know, I'll keep toying around with this, but you know, so far it's been proven to work out really well. Then because we run allies, you also have 3 OP attacks. So Overpowering Attack, you know, it's just a tutor for an ally. It's really good, so no explanation really needed. It's just you run allies, you know, you need a way to get them out consistently. I never really understand when people like would run decks with allies that had no consistent way of getting them. You know, for me, just wouldn't even be worth the spot, just because you know I don't want to like luck into my ways of getting my allies. I want to like consistently see them, and you know I feel like if you run allies, you should run some ally tutor or searcher. For more energy combats, we have Cooler Supernova. This card's just disgusting. Again, if your opponent like has VTP, it kind of forces them to either use it right away or no, it's going to probably get blown up next turn if the card's just sitting in your discard pile. And it just forces like those when entering combat cards to really enter against you because they're probably gonna it's gonna be blown up anyway. So I like how it forces the opponent to come to you, which Cooler loves because you know you get the rejuves on your turn, on your opponent's turn as well as your turn if you decide to enter. So unpreventable damage and it raises your anger too, which is a huge part because getting off level 1 it can be problematic. So Cooler kind of, I mean Supernova just really helps with that, kind of speeds the deck up a little bit. So probably my favorite card in the deck. And 3 Rebirth. I'm playing 3. Endurance 1. 2. Certain matchups where I feel like damage isn't like certain decks where they maybe like to camp at a certain level or just poke with like little damage. This card really shined because if they're not landing huge attacks, you know, if they like poke with certain damage, you can just rejuve 2 from the banish zone, stack this on top, use Cooler's power to draw it again, and then you know it's like, oh, do they really want to attack and to know that you're going to get 2 more cards? Especially like it's really good for like decks that do like little bit or chip damage. Even decks that do bigger damage, it's still fine just because the endurance to put on top is awesome. And you know the fact that you just can soak up damage, it's just really good. I don't know, I just really like this card. At first I had it at 2. People were like, oh, you should probably cut it Rebirth, but again with Cooler level 1 you want as much like energy combat targets as possible. So I just felt like this card, again, if you use it with Cooler's power you can rejuve 2 because this and the other card. So I just wanted to have as much like targets for Cooler's level 1 as much as possible because sometimes you do stay on 1 longer than you're used to. So I think this card helps a lot for the long game. Then we have 1 Blue Terror, obvious reasons, and the fact that you can get it back with Cooler 3 is disgusting. Or Rebirth, so you know it's more targets for that. So you know, gets anything from the deck that's not a Dragon Ball, so you have to play it. I'm only playing 2 Blue Clash. I ran 3, but a lot of times, if my allies go to the discard pile, this card like loses value. So it's either I have to use it early when they're in my deck still, or if you know they get banished by like Tug of War or like some other card. So I just figured like 2 is a good number just because I have 3 other ways. Sorry, 6 cards total to search it out. That doesn't require hit effect. The 3 Sobering Hammer and the 3 Overpowering Attack. So I didn't really, a lot of times I didn't really use it to kind of search for an ally. I use it more so like if my allies get banned, like my Salza or my Nappa or something like that. This is like a good recovery card for it. So I'm playing 2. So I might bump it back up again, but I like where it stands at 2. And because we're in a very heavy physical meta, 3 Blue Arm Blast. So, you know, this card is just really good right now. Sorry, I'm just moving it because I feel like a glare. But I really like the 3 Arm Blast right now, simply for the fact that it's utility. It can be used as attack or defense. So cool level 1, I can just use this power for it, or I can throw it as an attack, or I can block with it. So it has so much synergy with Cooler, and pretty much, and they're all foil too. So I was like, you know, I kind of have to play these. You know, I was struggling so hard to find them, so I was like, you gotta play them. So 3 Blue Arm Blasts. 3 Neck Beam. Again, I want to have as much synergy with Cooler level 1 as possible. So 3 Neck Beam, again, if I discard it for Cooler, you know, it says if this card is discarded from your hand by a card effect, MP gains 4 stages. So Cooler would gain 4 stages. If I have Salza out, I'll gain 6. So I felt, especially now in this meta, I want to make sure a lot of the cards I played had multiple uses, not just like, okay, just attack, or you know, the fact that it can be used as a block for the mastery, that's 1. The fact that I can gain 4 to 6 stages is amazing, that's 2. And the fact that I can lower a level to control like you know, the MP levels and stuff like that was great. So I felt like this card definitely 3. Like if there's a skeleton for people who want to play Blue Cooler, I would say like Blue Neck Beam for sure. Just because of, again, to gain 6 stages is huge. I played 3 Blue Blanketing Blast. 3 again because I always love like as much endurance as I can, but again the utility of the card. So to be able to Again, stack a card. I can see us playing a 2 just because of the cost, but the fact that I can stack a card on top and then use Coolest Power to draw it is always good. So, or even Salza, stuff like that. So the fact that it also has banishment, if it hits, is really helpful as well. So the stick doesn't have much banishment as is, so to be able to kind of control that is pretty good. And again, the reason why I'm playing like a lot of these cards, even though this card can definitely be at 2, again, I have Rebirth, so I can afford to like kind of maximize on cards that would mainly be at 2, but since it has endurance, it banish itself, and then I can just Rebirth to get it back. So I'll hopefully see it at some point during the game eventually. Now for energy blocks, 3 blue guard. So this card is basically like Pot of Greed with Cooler. It's just disgusting. Again, the examples I talked about before. So you can stack something with Blanketing Blast, and then if your opponent doesn't do any life card damage, you can just like, use blue guard to draw the card and an additional card. But again, if you use Cooler's Power, since you are banishing the card and not discarding it, you don't rejuve and your opponent doesn't mill one. But I mean, you trade the mill and the rejuve for an extra card, which is always good. And then you can just get it back with Rebirth. So this card's just disgusting and Cooler. And then last but not least, 3 blue Narrowscape. So Narrowscape, again, endurance, being able to stack energy combat cards, so to reuse like stack like supernovas on top, rebirths on top, blanketing blast, energy defense, whatever the case may be. It's just the utility of it and the fact that you can draw into those energy combat cards. So like you can go Overpowering Attack, they use an energy, block it, Coolest Power, throw the OP again, and stuff like that. Some crazy stuff. So I played 3, and again, endurance. So now for events, one time, you know what it is, you know why. One sphere. I only played one, simply because I feel like sphere is kind of losing value in this meta right now. Every time I played 2, I had 2 in here, and every time I drew him, I was like, oh, this card is just like so dead. Like in 13, it's like dead. Against Broly, it's like pretty much dead. So I was like, the card that you really fear, I guess, or I wouldn't even say fear, but it's always time. And I don't care if they confront or stare down me, just because if I'm at level 2, I just can just use my power for free and just gain 2 cards back. So it doesn't really matter. But the only card that I guess I would worry about in this deck would be time, but I don't really care. It's more of like a reactive card, and usually my opponents usually attacking me, so my reactive cards will mainly be blocks as opposed to like events. So, I think one sphere works perfectly. And you can search out with terror, so you need to at least play 1. And 3 stare down, so this basically make my other replacement for the spheres pretty much. We just nip the card out, and the fact that you can rejuve it again with like cooler level 2 or level 3 and stuff like that is always good. So, you just see stare down more and more. So this card's just always helpful, especially when you have like a hand of like Clash or Nova or something like that, or Neck Beam if you want to try and level them up. So this card helps a lot with that. For drills, I'm only playing 1 drill, Blue Overpowering Drill. So the reason why I'm playing this is because, as you see later, I play Nappa. I also play Blue Dominance. So sometimes if I have to get Nappa out first against certain matchups, it will shut off my dominance, which means I have no real way to get rid of my own Nappa. So I felt like this card would help a lot because I can still gain anger and level up outside of dominance, which I needed, and it's a target for dominance. So I just played at least 1, and I also played Decap, so it can help trigger that and make like slashes unpreventable or head knocks or something like that. So that's always a plus. So I think 1's fine, but again, I just needed another way to level or gain anger outside of dominance. And if I'm at cooler 2 or something like that, I can gain anger really fast, whether I stop an attack or take damage. Granted, I don't prevent. And for setups, 3 blue dominance. This card's insane, as you know from last year with Filmograph running Blue Piccolo. This card's just disgusting. Again, to be able to level up and just get you off 1 and be able to speed things along. Like, as long as you're level 2, I feel like you're pretty much in good shape, just because, you're at least getting something back. And the fact that, 5 life cards for a physical is always good. And you could filter out your hand if it hits, things of that nature. So 3 blue dominance for sure, just to get off 1. And now for my allies, I'm playing obviously Salza. So again, Salsa is always good because against physical beats and things like that, you can use the mastery gain 2 stages to help you stay afloat in stages so that way you don't get pummeled down so fast. And the fact that you can draw a card. So it's just a lot of drawing. As you can see, I don't run that many setups or drills, so usually a lot of times when I draw, the cards that I draw are pretty live. So I just have, outside the allies, I pretty much draw like something good all the time just because, I only run 3 setups and 1 drill and 3 other allies. So the dead cards are very minimal, and when you use Salsa to draw, it's usually something good. Whether it be a block or an attack, it's like at least something useful. Uh, I also play Nappa. Again, to be able to shut down setups and stuff like that is huge. Roshi was a thing, and still is, I guess. Even though it didn't show that much in GenCon at all, but just being able to have outs to like certain boards. Whether even though I run like 3 Supernova and 3 Betrayal and decaps with the Betrayals, I think Nappa is still really good just because like early game, you can just kind of slow them down and then pick apart their board, stuff like that. And if they get rid of it, you can just bring it back because especially certain matchups where they need to use their setups a lot, you just hold like the Zarbon hammer or the OP attack for the Nappa when they try to get rid of it and just bring it back out again. So Nappa wins games a lot. So I play Ginyu just because it's basically my version of mental drill without me actually having to play the drill. Um, Again, Ginyu just be able to see the hand is being able to see what to block, what to take, kind of can plan ahead and stuff like that to try and outplay your opponent. So it's just I felt a good card all around, and again for me it always just helps just to see like my opponent's hand just to see what they're up to, what they're trying to plan. So I love Ginyu. And last but not least, Zarbon. So Zarbon's really good right now with all the physical decks running and float, especially decks that do like flat stages like Broly in 13, so you gain free anger, especially at level 2. Uh, you gain double the anger, so they use like 13's power. You can take the stages off like Zarbon and you gain 2 anger since you didn't prevent. Again, that, and then you took damage, so you gain 2 anger, so you level off 2 pretty quickly. So I felt like Zarbon's really good right now, and usually like the first ally I get against like physical decks, because whether he gets critted or not, I'll still get the anger, barring that they don't crit my anger. If they, because they most likely get rid of Zarbon before getting rid of my anger, so at least I'll get some value always with this, unless you're playing into red and they just get rid of it right away. But for other styles and stuff like that, he usually stays around for a bit, so just to net free anger. So again, I won ways to level outside of dominance. I didn't really want to so much rely on it. So Zarbon and like the drill helps, as well as like the mastery and trying to gain anger through like supernovas and stuff like that. So yep, so that's pretty much my deck list if I would have played it at Gen Con. Again, I really, really like the deck, and I'm still going to be playing it probably for upcoming events and upcoming regionals, just because of the utility and the fact that it really doesn't die. It's just a deck that kind of just, you know, constantly just keeps rejuvenating, constantly keeps cycling through cards and things of that nature. Just cards I did think about, like Blue Position Drill and stuff like that, but um, again, I didn't like certain cards like that. I didn't really want to play in my deck simply because, you know, first like with Broly being everywhere, I wanted to just have cards that kind of advance my game plan, not so much like kind of stall. I already had like Blanket and Blast and Crouch and stuff like that, a lot of stuff to kind of stack stuff on top, and I felt like Position Drill would have been just um, more repetitive, and just have to hope for my opponent to block, and I have to hope for my opponent to attack. I mean, so certain decks, like Roshi, don't really attack that much, so I rather just get the value of stacking stuff basically through coolest, like through Blanket and Blast, Narrow Escapes, and things of that nature. I might try it. I may put it in, but again, I just really want to like lessen the dead draws as much as possible. Like I knew like 3 diamonds had to go in because I want to get to 2, and with the drill, that drill doesn't go away when you level up. So if you happen to go off to the overpowering drill, I mean, so if you happen to go from 2 to 3, you don't lose a drill. So I might try it out, see how it goes, but I like Blue Cooler a lot, and congrats to all the players that did well with Cooler and tried it out. I mean, for me again, it was a really great deck and a really good meta call for sure. And a lot of people who knew about the deck knew that I was gonna play it and stuff like that. They see the power of Blue Cooler. It's a pretty insane deck for sure. So again, congrats to everyone that did well at Gen Con, and hopefully I'll see you guys around the circuit some more. So, Mr. Waffles out.